Sports Today. I'm Maurice Patton along with Wade Neely here as we get you through a Tuesday afternoon chock full of sports topics to talk about, and we'll be talking about them all. It's Top 5 Tuesday here as we come to you from the Lee Company studios of okay, so I'm at home. Wade is Wade is really remote because he's not at his home and he's not in the studio in Columbia, but part of Wade's duties include play by play. Is that right? Is that your is
Yes,
it play by
sir.
play or are you color? Okay. Wade provides play by play um for Giles County boys and girls basketball on Pulaski Citizen Live on Facebook. And tonight, the Lady Bobcats and Bobcats are playing at Murfreesboro Central. So you can see them there. Tip off is at 6 o'clock. And so Wade is posted up somewhere in the borough, which gives me
Yeah,
something in
I'm
common.
I'm in the borough, and ironically, I got to give a quick shout out. I'm staying at my good friend Hunter Lee's house today, so I thought it was very fitting that we are in the Lee Company, very mobile, but still in the Lee Company mobile studios nonetheless.
Absolutely. And you are in the borough, which gives you something in common with one of our guests today, as we will be chatting later, as we do typically on Tuesdays, with the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters, as he brings us up to date on what's going on in and around the campus of Middle Tennessee State University. So we'll be checking in with him in the second hour. Later in this hour, in the next segment, in fact, we will be visiting with Heather Williams, who I'm sure is all fired up for Super Bowl 58, but also we're going to talk to her about a little NASCAR and this weekend's events and what's happening not this coming weekend, but the weekend after down in Florida. So, um, Wade, I caught you on the tail end of your Pulaski Citizen wrap up that will be part of Mornings on Main Street, Southern Middle Tennessee edition, and you were talking about the Bobcats, and things have kind of been inconsistent for them, I guess, over the course of this season.
Yeah, it's been up and down. This is a team that made it to the state semifinals last year, and there was a lot of reason for optimism with a lot of returning talent. And they started off great, but they have been inconsistent at best the last couple of weeks. If you're an optimist, though, the good news is Giles County has lost a lot of close games, including 2 games last week that were decided at the buzzer. And they've now lost, I think, 5 of their last losses have come by something like 24 points total. They have really been kind of snake bit lately. So a chance to win. They got to win last week versus Magnet at home, and they'll have a chance to do it again tonight. Here it is, just on the road.
So you feel like they might be in a position to turn some things around and get some of those close games going in their favor here in the next bit.
And that's the interesting thing is when you watch the team play, you can see the talent is there, and the talent does execute for 3 of the 4 quarters more often than nights. But that one quarter, that one little 3 or 4 minute lull has been just what has done them in the last couple of ball games, especially in those 2 close losses last week. So if they can turn around, the good news is you can see the talent, like I said, there. It's just a matter of kind of putting it all together. And I suppose they're due for a hot streak. Maybe the last week of the season and into postseason is just what they need.
Well, there you go. Speaking of high schools, Wade, we probably shouldn't get too much further into the show before we give the people yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
In high school girls basketball action from Monday night, Coffee County with a 61-25 win over Spring Hill. Cornersville defeated Culleoka 51-21. It was Harpeth Hall in a nail-biter 31-30 over Father Ryan. Green Hill defeated Gallatin 58-54. Cheatham County with a 46-31 win over Harpeth. Houston County defeated Hollow Rock Brewston 59-42. The Webb School with a 57-33 win over Lipscomb Academy. Murfreesboro Central 47, Moore County 25, Columbia Central 54, Shelbyville 42, Stewart's Creek with a 68-18 win over Laverne, Sycamore down Creekwood 43-40, Pleasant View Christian with a 62-17 win over Victory Baptist, and Wilson Central defeated Trousdale County 59-41.
In boys basketball last night, it was Coffee County knocking off Spring Hill by the score of 55-26. Cornersville wins a nail-biter 48-45 over Culleoka. Mount Juliet Christian takes care of Dayspring Academy, 91 points in the win there. 91-50 is your final. MBA 63, Father Ryan 60. Another close game last night. Frank Hughes knocks off Hampshire 66-46. Green Hill defeats Gallatin 63-55. It was Cheatham County 68, Harpeth 49. Houston takes care of Hollow Rock Brewston, Houston County that is, 80-39 was the score there as Houston County gets the win. Central Magnet, we just mentioned, the ladies got a nice win. The boys followed suit, 72-29, your final for the Tigers over Moore County. Pope John Paul II, 84, CPA 56. Stewart's Creek takes care of Laverne, 53-51. Creekwood was a 62-27 winner versus Sycamore, and White House knocked off Portland to cap our boys high school last night, 69-65. A couple of bonus scores. These are college women's basketball showdowns last night. It was Alabama knocking off Vanderbilt 74-66. UT Southern, much needed win. The Firehawks claimed a win on the road last night versus Welch, 74-44 was your score there. That game actually was played in Pulaski, sorry.
All right, tonight's high school basketball schedule. These are all double headers. Girls playing at 6, boys after. Rockvale is at Blackman. Page goes to Brentwood. Okay. This is not a doubleheader because Harpeth Hall is at Brentwood Academy at 6. That's girls only. McGavock goes to Cane Ridge. Centennial hosting Nolansville. Clarksville Northeast is at Clarksville. Henry County goes to Clarksville Northwest. Hickman County visits Columbia. Christ Presbyterian hosting Ensworth. Stewart County goes to Creekwood. Clarksville Academy is at Donaldson Christian. East Nashville hosting Kip of Nashville. Ezel Harding hosting Davidson Academy. St. Cecilia Academy girls are going to Father Ryan. That's a 5 o'clock start, and that will also be girls only. University School of Nashville is at Franklin Road Academy. I believe that is a tournament quarterfinal game in District 3 of Division 2A. Also, a tournament quarterfinal game there as Columbia Academy's girls go to Grace Christian. Again, that's girls only. 6 o'clock tip there. Green Hill is at Gallatin in doubleheader action. Station Camp goes to Greenbrier. Fairview is at Harpeth. Hendersonville hosting Beach. Victory Baptist is at Hendersonville Christian. Antioch goes to Hillsboro. Hollow Rock Brewston is at Houston County. Hollow Rock Brewston is at Houston County. Overton goes to Hunters Lane. Merrill Hyde is at Joe Burns, and Kenwood hosting Dixon County.
Yeah, a bit of a tongue twister there. Hollow Rock Brewston at Houston
And
County.
Houston.
Say that 3 times fast.
I did get to say it once.
Brewston at Houston. I love it.
Yeah.
More games still to come on the docket tonight. West Creek travels to Kirkwood. It'll be East Robertson visiting Knowledge Academies. Marshall County will take on Lawrence County. Should be a really good show down there between those two 8 AAA rivals. Pearl Cone is at Lead Academy. Summertown will travel to Lewis County. Pope John Paul II is at Lipscomb Academy. Hume Fogg will visit Maplewood this evening. Lawson travels to Martin Luther King. BGA visits Middle Tennessee Christian. It'll be Waverly at Montgomery Central. Loretto takes on Mount Pleasant tonight. Giles County, as mentioned, is here in Murfreesboro versus Central Magnet. Friendship Christian travels to Nashville Christian. White House will visit Portland. Independence will hit the road tonight for a trip versus Ravenwood. Whites Creek will travel to Republic. Culleoka is at Richland in a 10A showdown tonight. Oakland travels to Riverdale. Hampshire will visit Santa Fe. Spring Hill is at Shelbyville. Mount Juliet at Siegel this evening. Cookeville will take a quick little jaunt on 40 down to Smyrna, traveling west. Cookeville coming down tonight. Rossview will take on Springfield. Merrill Hyde will visit STEM Academy tonight. It'll be Lebanon at Stewart's Creek. Franklin visits Summit tonight. Liberty Creek is at Sycamore. Glencliff will travel to Valor Collegiate. Smith County will hit the road versus Watertown. Macon County is at Westmoreland. And last game on our schedule is Laverne at Wilson Central this evening.
Okay. Again, girls basketball only tonight. St. Cecilia is at Father Ryan. That game will tip at 5 o'clock. At 6 at Brentwood Academy, Harpeth Hall will play, followed by MBA's boys and Brentwood Academy at 7:30. Men's basketball, traditionally a big game at Memorial Gym tonight. Tonight, not so much, probably. But Kentucky coming off back-to-back losses at Memorial against the Commodores. That's a 7:30 tip on SEC Network. Might be worth tuning in just to see how pissed off the Wildcats are. Anyway, women's basketball action. Thomas More is at Trevecca, 5:30 tip there. And in the association, the Grizzlies go to Madison Square Garden, taking on the Knickerbockers of New York. That's a 6:30 tip. That is your rundown. Top story brought to you as always by Piggly Wiggly over in Neely's Mill here in Columbia, or down in Columbia today. Be sure and visit them for your delicious deli lunch options, meat and threes, sandwiches, the whole bunch. Check that out. Also, hand cut meats, plenty of selections there, and everything is cost plus 10 at the register. So again, be sure and check out Piggly Wiggly at Neely's Mill over in Columbia. Donaldson Christian Wade had a football coaching vacancy as Paul Wade, I went blank on his name. Paul Wade had left to take the Brentwood Academy position. The Wildcats hired one of their own. Former Donaldson Christian quarterback and 2000 graduate Jay Pierce has been named to succeed Paul Wade as coach of the Wildcats. Comes to them from Blackman, where he had been coaching middle school over there. Previously had served as a head coach at East Robertson for 3 years. And so he's back in the high school ranks and pretty excited to be there, according to the article on MainStreetPreps.com, where we have coverage of this. Getting to interview for my dream job and being back at DCA was a blessing in itself. Being offered the job has been a lifelong dream come true. This tradition-filled school and football program became home and an extended family for myself and my family in 1996. I believe in everyone and everything DCA stands for. I'm excited to continue the traditions of the coaches before me, and I'm happy to be home. So, Donaldson Christian has a coach.
Got a coach they're obviously familiar with, and you can't put a price sometimes on going back home. And to me, this seems like a fantastic hire here for DCA, a program who's had, a good string of success. As we've kind of talked about here, they go 45-25 in the last 6 seasons. And just prior to that, they had not had a little stretch with success. So the table is kind of being set kind of nicely. And so looks like Coach Jay Pierce is going to step in, to me at least, into a pretty good little situation here.
He's got a nice little situation. Quarterback Mitchell Carey comes back, threw for more than 2,800 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 3 picks as a junior. So he can throw it around, and he knows who to throw it to, apparently. They've also got a couple of wide receivers in Cameron Booker and Grayson Scragg, and tight end Carson Sneed, who is a beast. I'm going to tell you, I don't know if he plays tight end at the next level. He might be more of a D-end type of guy, but at the high school level, he's a big target, and he's one heck of a security blanket for Mr. Carey. So, yeah, like you said, they are set up for some success. And also, as you said, anytime you get to go back to your alma mater and coach, I think that's kind of a special situation there. So we'll certainly bear watching what's going on over at Donaldson Christian here over the next bit under Jay Pierce. I am trying to think. I'm not sure what other high school football coaching vacancies there are at this point. Wade, are you familiar with anything else right now?
No, and it's funny you mentioned that, because that was exactly where I was going. I was kind of racking my brain to see if this is, kind of the final piece of the puzzle in the coaching carousel, as it were, this year. And so talk about a nice move. And again, just the fact that you're able to go back to a program you're familiar with, not completely rebuilding. Seems like we see this story a lot where a coach comes back home, but it's a total renovation project. And it seems like, at least right now for Coach Pierce, he's set up nicely. But yeah, I can't think of any other coaching vacancies off the top of my head. So this could finally, unless something crazy obviously happens in the next couple of weeks, could and should wrap us up in that regard.
Yeah, and it's nice as we're getting February started, getting signing day for February started tomorrow. Actually, nice to have some of those situations settled, I would imagine. So yeah, that's a good thing. And again, congratulations to Coach Pierce and to Donaldson Christian for getting that squared away. So as we continue here on Main Street Sports today, we are efforting to make sure that Heather Williams is able to get in with us to talk a little NASCAR. Had to move Heather over because of signing day tomorrow. She anticipated being a little busy up in her neck of the woods with various signings. So, Wade, anybody doing anything down your way tomorrow?
Don't know that we'll do anything official just yet. We have had a couple of signees, and I don't know that he will sign tomorrow, but I have been hearing a lot of chatter about the big standout for GCHS football last year, Kamari Turner. Took a nice visit over the weekend up to Cumberland's Kentucky, which is a program that has fielded a Giles County player or two. They had a really nice commitment a couple years ago from Walker Dunn, a former safety for Giles County, who's done well and played well up there. And Kamari probably is your big piece. Amari Smith is still to come. I know he went on said visit to Cumberland's, but I don't know that I've seen anything in terms of a commitment or a verbal, or certainly tomorrow, a signing. But those are kind of the big pieces. And then Giles County has, one or two other kids. They're always good to just spring one or two kids on you that may not necessarily even be on someone's recruiting radar that pop up. So it'll be interesting to keep our eyes and ears tuned for GCHS and Richland, for that matter, tomorrow.
Sure. We were fortunate enough to take a visit to the University of Cumberland's up in Williamsburg when Nick was coming out of Centennial, considered wrestling up there. That's a heck of a drive, but it's a really nice campus. They've got some great facilities up there, and so you can kind of see why they are such an attractive option for so many kids down here as well. So look forward to seeing where Kamari winds up. Obviously had a great season, a great career down there at Giles County, and as you said, will certainly be worth following. When we come back here on Main Street Sports today, we will be joined by Heather Williams to talk a little NASCAR, a little Chiefs. We'll see how that goes. Stay with us.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
We thrive under the lights. The city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back to the Tuesday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you live from the Lee Company mobile studios here, and we are brought to you by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. So, Wade, we are now joined by our NASCAR expert, Heather Williams of WCYB TV up in the Tri-Cities. Heather, welcome aboard.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for kind of adjusting to my schedule and let me join you on the Tuesdays. Everybody knows tomorrow is National Signing Day, and we have 5 signings at this time tomorrow. So
Nice.
I'm gonna clone myself.
Okay. Yeah. So you were going to kind of be getting frequent flyer miles tomorrow then, huh?
Yeah, a little running around, but that's what tomorrow is, and I'm always so excited for the kids that are getting the chance to move on to the next level.
Well, they won't all be left turns, I don't guess, will they?
No. There will be some people making left turns on a different kind of a track, as in track and field, but nobody in a car.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, a lot of left turns Saturday night. Now, Chris and I discussed this a little bit yesterday, and my NASCAR knowledge is limited, Heather, but he brought me to the conclusion or made me understand that earlier is not bad for a NASCAR race. The Classic at the Coliseum was scheduled for Sunday. They're having some weather issues out there on the left coast, and so they moved it up to Saturday. And I thought that would kind of be a little bothersome. He said not so much.
In this example, not so much. I mean, there were people that were mad because there's people that are always people that aren't happy about things. Mm-hmm. But in this particular situation for this race, there were already scheduled to be Cup activities on the track on Saturday. So that section was going to be the qualifying races. So there was going to be Cup Series action anyway on that day. So the drivers were all expected to be there. The crews were already there. Everything was already in place to be able to do that. On the normal weekend, that's not the case because sometimes the pit crews don't fly in until the day before or even the morning of. So, but this was like the perfect, for lack of a better term, storm, because a storm is what caused this. But, and also it just so happened in this case, it's one of the few times that this is not a NASCAR venue. It's not owned by NASCAR or by Speedway Motorsports, who they own all of the tracks that we're normally at. They had to give the Coliseum back to LA at some point so they could tear up the concrete or the asphalt and get ready for the event that they have in there. You also have getting the production trucks and everything down to Daytona for next week, all the way from California. You have to go back to Concord or Charlotte or wherever they're located, and then down. So you start to get into a time crunch. So in this instance, it was the best thing to move it to Saturday, because if it didn't happen Saturday, it probably was not going to happen at all.
That makes sense. And Denny Hamlin gets the win. You know,
Yes.
as we talked last week, I'm not sure how much winning and not winning necessarily matters, but if you're running, you might as well win, right?
Right. I mean, and these are race car drivers. They're competitive, right? I mean, all you had to do was watch, if you could stand to sit through it, the Pro Bowl games this weekend and find
Did
out
not.
that it doesn't matter what you're doing. Athletes are going to be competitive at it. They just are. So this was a little bit more entertaining than the Pro Bowl games because they were actually racing and not pretending to do things that are kind of, you know, related to racing. They were iRacing or something weird like that. But so yeah, I mean, the guys that go all the way out to California, they want to be in the race. They want to be competitive. They want to win. I mean, 13 guys drove all the way out to or flew. They didn't drive all the way out to California and tried to qualify for this race and got to run, you know, 10 laps of practice and qualifying, and then went home because they didn't get in the race. And we're talking about big name guys. I mean, Christopher Bell finished fourth in the points last year, did not make the clash this weekend. Chris Buescher finished ninth, I think, in the points, did not make the clash this year. So, you know, nobody was safe except for Ryan Blaney, and he had to use his fall safe, his provisional to get in that they had saved for the highest point finisher from last year who didn't get in on time. And number one finisher from last year had to use that provisional. So that just tells you how difficult this event was and how even the playing field is. And perspective, I just thought it was fascinating that, you know, big name guys were Austin Dillon, Austin Cindric. They drive for major teams in the garage area and they didn't make the race. And that's NASCAR. And I think that's amazing.
Paid off for Blaney using that provisional, finishing third behind Hamlin and Busch, Joey Logano fourth, and Kyle Larson rounding out the top five out there.
Yeah. And, you know, Blaney basically went from last to third, a few more laps, and he might have been able to get up to the front. And yeah, I mean, it just shows that this kind of racing is hard, and that qualifying, that's why they wanted to do the heat races, because that qualifying isn't really indicative of who has strong cars in this style of racing, but the weather just prevented them from doing the heat races. So, but it was interesting, right? I mean, I know you probably didn't watch, but for the people out there that did watch, it's all right. You're not a NASCAR fan. It's cool. I usually will text you when there's something you need to see and let you know. I'll be like, Mo, turn
Looking
it on.
out for me. I appreciate it. Yeah.
But there were you know, tempers. Joey Logano were in each other's face after the race because they didn't like how they were racing each other. That's interesting. That'll be something to keep an eye on going forward throughout the season. If those two get tangled up, we've already started. There was lots of beating and banging and pushing people out of the way because on that little quarter-mile track, there's not a lot of room. Mm-hmm. So everybody's fighting for the same piece of real estate. So, you know, short track racing still has some work to do, but I thought that it was pretty entertaining for the most part.
Heather, what's one, who, I guess, two parts, I guess, who, and then what our story, who needs to maybe have a big weekend in your mind gearing up for Daytona, and then what is a big storyline that you see? Obviously, the race will tell itself, but what's one other big storyline coming out of this race heading into Daytona that you perhaps are most excited about?
Well, I think Denny Hamlin is going to be a story to watch out for just because he was able to win this race. It's physically demanding kind of a race, and he's coming off his shoulder surgery on
Wait, can you hear me?
We lost Heather, I think, there.
Yeah, we seem to have lost Heather. Hopefully we can get Heather back. I did not realize Denny Hamlin was coming off of shoulder surgery, and I imagine, particularly as she was saying, in a short track situation like that, that puts a little bit more stress on something like that than it in a more conventional setting. So there she is. She did.
I don't know what happened. Just absolutely just went blank. So anyway, I was talking about Denny Hamlin. Mm-hmm. He, so, and he's not 100%. And he didn't even know if he was going to be able to run this race. So to be able to come back and then win this race, it'll be interesting to see what kind of wear and tear they did on his shoulder, how he's going to feel when he gets back to Daytona in a couple of weeks. So I think he's someone to keep his eye on. Also, the Toyotas and the Fords have new body styles for this year. So how are they? I mean, Toyotas were all fast. They were all up front. They looked great in the Clash. Of course, it's a short track, so it's not so much on aerodynamics and body style, but Daytona will be. Aerodynamics is a huge part. So how did they perform based on that? And I think as far as, when we get down to Daytona, how do those guys, those big name drivers that missed the Clash, how do they respond? Do they come out and put up big numbers? Was it just a fluke? I mean, Brad Keselowski made the Clash for the first time this year. He hadn't made it each of the previous 2 years, and he made it to 2 rounds of the playoffs. So not making the Clash doesn't have to make or break your season. But of course, if you get up on the wrong foot, it certainly can break your season if you don't handle it right. So how do Christopher Bell and Josh Berry, Chris Buescher, Austin Dillon, Austin Cindric, some of those bigger name guys that we talked about, how do they respond from disappointment at the Clash?
Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports today as we take a look at the weekend that was in NASCAR and kind of spin ahead to Daytona here in a couple of weeks. But speaking of spinning, you mentioned a little beating and banging, little tempers, because what would NASCAR be without it? Ty Gibbs and Joey Logano got into each other late Saturday night, and you kind of alluded to it, but Logano particularly unhappy with that. He
was, but I think it's kind of funny because the two drive very similarly. I mean, they're maybe that's why, they're so much alike that they can't see what the other one's doing, because they're both the kind of guys that want to win, and they don't care if you're friends when you get off. I mean, both of them have famously said, I don't have any friends out here. Like I'm going to do what it gets to take to the front, and I don't care who I wreck. And they both would wreck their mama if that's what it took to get up front. So I find it very interesting that those two are clashing, just because those two are so much alike in their driving styles. I didn't see anything egregious that either person did. I kind of feel like it was just the nature of the kind of racing that they're doing, but it does get people angry because you don't really realize. I mean, there was one point in the race where, and I'm sure the spotters got in and let them know because they didn't seem too agitated with themselves, but there was with each other. But there was one point in the race where it looked like Bubba got wrecked by his teammate, Tyler Reddick. And from Bubba's perspective, I'm sure that's what it looked like. But what you can't see when you're in racing, this kind of racing, is that the wreck actually started 4 cars back and Reddick got pushed into Bubba. So, I mean, that kind of stuff happens on the track all the time. And I think they'll be fine, because I think when they rewatch it, they'll see that. But they're both kind of stubborn, and they're both kind of, very much driven in their own success. So maybe not. They might hold a grudge. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
Well, and it seems they have a history.
Oh, everybody on the track has a history at some point. It's just how much are you willing to let it go? I mean, if it's your, when it's Bubba and Blaney and they get into each other, they're best friends, so they'll probably let it go. The same thing with like Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin. They're pretty good friends, and it took a long time before Kyle finally said, I'm not putting up with this anymore. But he hasn't really retaliated with him. He's maybe just changed the way he races him. So everybody's got a history with each other. I think at this point, these guys have all been in the series together long enough that you could probably find a backstory on every single one of them.
Apparently, Logano spun Ty in October up at Martinsville.
I was at Martinsville. I'm sure it happened. I don't remember it, but NASCAR drivers are elephants. They never forget.
Yeah.
I mean, they never forget anything. You spun me, and I'm sure that somebody could go back and say, you spun me at this race 15 years ago and be upset about it and feel like they owe payback. But I'm sure it happened. I believe it.
I just don't know if that's what caused this. I think this was
Gotcha.
basically based on what was going on at the track at the moment.
You know, if you want to show off NASCAR, short track is probably the most exciting way to do it. That's why you get what you get at the Clash. You're going from short track to super speedway in a couple of weeks down at Daytona. These guys are used to going from one to the other and doing everything in between, but what changes?
I mean, everything changes. At the short track, it's really about the driver and not about the car at all. That's why you're able to see a Justin Haley who drives for what people I think would probably consider the lowest um, charter team in the garage in Rick Ware Racing. I think he qualified 10th for this race. And you see Christopher Bell, who finished fourth in the points, not make it, because it doesn't really have that much to do with the car and has a lot to do with what the driver's doing and how they're able to manipulate through traffic and that kind of stuff. Not that Christopher's not an amazing driver, because he's incredibly talented, especially on the short tracks. He didn't have a good day, and it happens. But when you go to a place like Daytona, especially in qualifying, it's all about the car. The driver is basically there to make sure it doesn't end up in the wall. I mean, you could qualify a car at Daytona. Hold down the gas and turn left. That is literally all you're doing at Daytona.
I'd
Now,
love to
in the
try.
race, yeah, because you are going fast. You are going like 190 miles an hour and tilted sideways. But when it comes to the race, there is a lot more driver skill involved. And because reading the draft and seeing being able to anticipate wrecks, there's a great scene in NASCAR Full Speed where Denny's at Daytona and he's running in the middle of the pack because, they're all running this close to each other, all 36 drivers in a huge pack going around. And they're all bouncing off each other and they're trying to go in and out of the tight spots. And the really good drivers can see when a wreck's about to happen. So there's a great scene in that where Denny's like just all of a sudden it's like a parachute goes right to the back. He's like, I'm getting out of there. They're about to wreck. And 2 laps later, boom, the big one happens.
Oh, wow.
But you can, the really good drivers can see that's about to happen. And then you have to balance risk versus reward. I see this is about to happen, but I need this point or I need this spot. So I'm going to stick it out and hope I can get through it. Or in Denny's case, I'm in the playoffs. I don't want to wreck. Boom, straight to the back. So there's a lot more strategy and a lot more lot more speed and aerodynamics this week as opposed to last week, where it was really all just beating and banging and moving people out of the way.
So defensive driving is a thing in NASCAR then, huh?
Oh, for sure. For sure, especially at a place like Daytona or the following week in Atlanta when you're running in that pack. You have to be able to judge risk reward. If I stick my nose in here for this point, I might wreck the whole field, and is it worth it for that point? So,
Wade, any thoughts?
Yeah, Heather, I guess I'm just curious, and we can chat more obviously next week about Daytona, but to the layperson, does anything about the track change? Are there any tweaks that kind of come into play year to year? Does NASCAR do anything different? I know this is such a big event, and I'm just curious, are there any degrees that get changed or smoothed or resurfaced? Does anything kind of happen in the off season for this particular race?
not at Daytona. Some of the other tracks, they'll lay down compounds to help them stick on different places of the track to widen the track out. But Daytona's a 4-lane track. Everybody runs all over the track. As I said, they run in the big pack. So the track itself doesn't really change except for with the weather. At any track, that the way the track races based on if it's hot or if it's cold, those kinds of things will affect the track. So a couple years ago when I was down in Daytona on Saturday for the Xfinity race, it was cold and the cars were much faster because cars run faster in the cooler weather. But other than that, no, there won't be anything really that's different from Daytona. And that's just the nature of that kind of track and the location of the track being in a warm weather area. It'll be pretty much consistent. You're not gonna ask about this shirt, by the way. I wore this for you.
Oh, don't worry. We
we had a feeling that was coming.
We're not done yet. We might have, since you have segued there, though. Just a little reminder that you all are the defending NFL champions, right?
Yeah, and this is actually the shirt. I looked for last year's shirt and couldn't find it this morning. I was kind of in a hurry though. So this is actually the 2019/2020 championship shirt, which was, by the way, a victory over the San Francisco 49ers.
Just a reminder.
Just a reminder.
Yeah. So obviously you like the Chiefs in this ball game. Why do you like the Chiefs in this ball game?
Because we have
objectively speaking.
Because we have Patrick Mahomes and the best defense left in the playoffs. If you look at what the Chiefs defense has done in the playoffs, we have contained Tua Tagovailoa, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson, which anyone would. I don't think you would get very many arguments that those three are all top tier quarterbacks and franchise quarterbacks. And the least of those quarterbacks would probably be considered Tua, who, oh, by the way, was the quarterback of the most prolific offense this year in the NFL. So, the defense will have some holes to fill because Charles Omenihu is injured. He blew out his knee in the AFC Championship game. And he's a really nice balance on that defensive line for Chris Jones. As far as it's hard to if you double team Jones, Omenihu will beat you one-on-one. So it's hard to just focus on Jones because of that. And then you have George Karlaftis, who also had 10 sacks in the regular season. So losing Omenihu, it allows you to double and stunt Chris Jones a little bit more than you would have been able to if Omenihu's there. But the rest of the defense is completely healthy. The Chiefs have decided just to not throw the ball to people that can't catch it anymore. We've shortened our receiver list quite a bit. And I just think, I did not feel confident going to the AFC Championship game. I did not think that they were good enough to beat Baltimore. But after they went into Baltimore and beat Baltimore in the presumptive MVP in their stadium, after beating the two calibers of quarterbacks they did the two previous weeks, I just don't think Brock Purdy is better than anyone that they've beaten so far along the way.
Safe to say Kadarius Toney won't be a Chief next year?
I would think so, but that he was at the NFL kickoff last night talking to people. So, I mean, he's in Vegas, which I would have never imagined in a million years was going to happen.
So you'd have just left him in Kansas City then, huh? Or wherever he decided to go.
After what was posted on Instagram? Absolutely. After his obscenity-laced tirade against the Chiefs about how he wasn't hurt, yes, I would have left him in Kansas City. To the IR we go.
Whether he's hurt or not, he's hurt.
I certainly would have not have trotted him out last night to talk to the media. That certainly would not have been a thing. I would have paid the fine for him and said, stay in the hotel room.
Heather Williams of WCYB TV in Johnson City giving us her insight on NASCAR and her thoughts on her Chiefs. And we will wish you luck this weekend. We will talk to you hopefully next Wednesday at your regularly appointed time.
Yeah, that is NASCAR Media Day in Detroit. So if it all works well, in Dallas. Dallas, where am I going? Daytona. Yeah, that's the
It's
D
something
word.
with a D. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So if it all works out, yes, from there, but I'll be in touch. We'll definitely hook up at some point next week, but Wednesday's crazy.
Sounds good. We appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you guys.
All right. Hey, when we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, there will be lawyers. We'll just leave it at that for now. Come on back to the Lee Company studios here in just a second.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA. With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back to the Tuesday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We are coming to you from the mobile Lee Company studios. Wade in Murfreesboro, me here in Franklin. And Wade, I don't know how much you are on Twitter over the course of the day / night. I'm probably on it more than I should be. But last night, something came across that was really jaw-dropping, and there is an article to that effect on frontofficesports.com. NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, rules that Dartmouth men's basketball players are employees. The ruling came down yesterday from the board, declaring that basketball players at Dartmouth University, which is an Ivy League school, which makes this particularly peaking, I guess. But they can hold an election to unionize. Now, I don't understand all of the whys and wherefores necessarily, but if you are someone who favors amateur athletics, this can't be good.
Yeah, this is an interesting decision, and it was interesting that it comes on the heels of you and I and Chris last week just discussing, kind of the future of the NCAA and where things go from here. And if I recall correctly, we also have seen our share of potential attempts to unionize? I want to say Northwestern basketball, or maybe even Northwestern football a couple of years ago.
Northwestern football.
I think that was correct. And it just seems like nothing had kind of stuck. But it's very interesting that this pops up again because the timing of it, it just seems like the NCAA is really kind of just wobbly, or not on solid footing, more so than it's ever been in its history, I suppose. And it just feels like if there ever is a time to strike, if you're in favor of unionization or in terms of full kind of player control, so to speak. It seems like we're right there in the thick of things now.
They have taken a bunch of punches from Apollo Creed, and they are woozy and wobbly, like you said, for sure. The NCAA, meanwhile, according to this article, is in the process of reviewing the decision and its potential impact on all schools and student athletes. So, Dartmouth's team will have the opportunity to hold a union election. They've not set a specific date yet. The school administration has 10 business days to file an appeal. I'm sure they will. And it's, again, with everything else that's going on across the NCAA, this is another punch that they can ill afford, I would think.
Yeah, this just seems like the NCAA is not, like I said, and we've kind of used the boxing analogy, seems like they're not equipped to maybe withstand too many more clubbings in the corner. And just seems like there's just enough kind of evidence or cases kind of mounting against them that they are really going to have to go deep into their coffers, it seems like, in terms of legal recourse, if they're going to somehow make some sort of Houdini-like escape here.
Right. Meanwhile, the NCAA has also filed a motion over the weekend to deny the motions made by the attorneys general of both Tennessee and Virginia regarding the name, image, and likeness guidelines and the rules that the NCAA is trying to institute that they say have been violated. So, like you said, the NCAA seems to be under attack from a number of different fronts right now.
Yeah, and and it's interesting that this is all happening, and it doesn't seem like there's this major groundswell of support in favor of the NCAA. It kind of seems like when these stories come out, we don't just have a huge throng of folks coming to the aid of the NCAA. It always just, to me, seems a little interesting that everybody kind of is teetering toward the other side of this equation, right?
It's kind of like when the bully on the schoolyard is getting beat up, right? Nobody's running to their rescue.
That's 100% the analogy that it feels like to me, because as these cases kind of mount up, and obviously we discussed the Tennessee situation at length here, and it kind of just goes back to, it seems like the NCAA, to me at least, has kind of gotten away with being hypocritical for a long, long time. And then, like you said, now all of a sudden the bully is kind of getting a little bit of comeuppance here. And I just find it interesting that there's not many people rushing to their aid.
Yeah, there's nobody saying stop. So yeah, it's you hate to see it.
Things you hate to see, isn't that right?
Exactly. Speaking of name, image, and likeness, not long before we went on the show today, a picture started circulating on social media channels of Carson Beck, Georgia quarterback, and his new Lamborghini.
Woo. Did you say Georgia quarterback, new Lamborghini?
Georgia quarterback, new Lamborghini. $300,000 Lamborghini. And
that's a sharp ride for a sharp QB, I suppose. But man, yeah, we're knee deep in the NIL realm now.
We are farther than knee deep, Wade. Unless you're short, but I don't know. But I mean, I on these same airwaves said more than once, I'm all for the kids, because so many didn't have these opportunities. So I'm all for the kids. This is too much. And
if he had gone with a nice Buick Enclave, would that have been too much, or the Lamborghini itself was just a little too much?
A nice top of the top end pickup truck, something like that. Okay, but a Lambo? A $300,000 Lambo? That's a bit much. And
Now, I will say this. I do see totally the point. At what point does this kind of, not to be that guy, but at what point do you start worrying about team chemistry and kind of cracks in the armor? Hey, so-and-so's got a $300,000 car. Why don't I have a $300,000 car? And that's the only potential drawback I see, because, yes, I'm 100% in favor of players being able to grab as much money as possible. But that's the only thing, is when you kind of see flashy purchases, to me, you just kind of wonder, what does that do for team morale for the 4th, 5th, 6th guys on the depth chart,
And, there's, I think to a degree, there's some of life's not fair that applies there. But at the same time, I do feel like that is something that you have to be concerned with, Wade. Not necessarily with the 4th, 5th, 6th guy on the depth chart, but definitely the 2nd and 3rd guys on the depth chart, depending on the position in particular.
Yeah, you're the backup quarterback, and you're like, man, I'm still driving a Corolla out here, and my star QB's in a Lambo. Maybe I should go grab a bag somewhere else. And again, I'm all in favor of bags and being grabbed as much as possible. But yeah, that's the only thing. And I mean, if we really want to go, I'd love to hear Chris Yow's opinion on this, because I'm sure he's got one. Is Beck Lambo caliber? I mean, just trying to.
Here's the thing. I don't know that it's the Lambo that is the concern here. I think it, because he bought it. This wasn't a gift, but it's the fact that his NIL is generating those type finances that he can purchase a Lambo. I think that's where it is right there. It's not the car, it's the money that is leading to the car. And, I'm not sure. I think the number that's being used is he's got 1.3 million in endorsements, which I guess if you're the quarterback at the University of Georgia, that's a little different than being the quarterback at the University of Idaho, maybe, but still, that's a lot. And it's something that is going to continue to be a problem until folks in decision-making positions get their arms around it, I think. So,
which perhaps could be solved by unionization. Maybe a little, maybe this cracks the door open for a collective bargaining type situation, and maybe all of a sudden, the offensive linemen band together and maybe say, you know what, we want our Lambos too. And I think this is eventually, keep in mind, it feels like we've been in this situation for 4 or 5 years, but it's still kind of so early in the process that none of these headlines really kind of shock me, because I do think eventually, give it another 2, 3, 4 years and things will kind of smooth out. But yeah, when you see the Beck grabs a Lambo, it certainly draws headlines, if nothing else.
Yeah, it seems like you said, so many different things have taken place that you feel like were the tipping point of this. And I don't know that anything has been, but we certainly feel like we're moving closer and closer to said tipping point. And at some point, this whole, I'm sure you've played Jenga. At some point, this whole thing is going to collapse. And maybe that's what needs to happen.
Yeah. Usually that seems like how it plays out, right? We kind of saw this. I know this is a weird analogy, but we kind of saw this with the NFL and their gambling suspensions last year, where we saw some players obviously close to home with the Titans get suspensions for kind of perceived lesser than, and kind of as those suspensions were handed out, they were kind of the unfortunate example. There needs to be some sort of egregious type situation before everything kind of reverts to the mean and everything kind of settles into place. And so for now, at least, the $300,000 sports car will be in effect. And I guess the question will be, what kind of car will Nico be driving this time next year then?
Yep.
If Beck's grabbing a Lambo, I want to see Nico getting in one as well, at least then.
Or something somewhat similar.
Similar, at least, yeah.
We will certainly be keeping an eye on it. Next up on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid Tennessee Bone and Joint, the pride of the dimple, Chip Walters, will be joining us to talk a little Middle Tennessee State athletics. Stay tuned.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee Sports Editor, three-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
The other guy in Wham married the best looking girl, Bananarama. So the other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice. Since 1975, Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic has treated the orthopedic needs of Middle Tennessee residents. The trained physicians provide surgical options and minimally invasive options to treat all orthopedic needs. The walk-in clinic, OrthoQuick, helps you bypass the ER while treating sports injuries and acute needs Monday through Saturday. Visit MTBJ online at mtbj.net or on social media at Mid-Tennessee Bone Joint Clinic.
Welcome in for the second hour of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and we are now joined by the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters. Chip, bring me up to speed. What did the Groundhogs see on Groundhog Day before the luncheon on Friday?
I think this was the 51st. This was the 51st Groundhog Day luncheon, and I think that that for 51 straight years, the Blue Raider baseball coach has interpreted what the groundhog sees as good weather for practice and good weather for the season opener in what is now about a week and a half. So Coach Jerry Myers was not able to be at this year's event. His dad passed away last week up in Indiana, and he was up there getting ready for a visitation and a funeral over the weekend. But associate head coach Kevin Nichols took the reins, introduced the staff. We introduced the entire baseball team and had a Q&A with the staff and also with 4 players, including Briggs Rudder, who from Zion Christian Academy and a Columbia native. And they were all, extremely optimistic about this year's group. They, they were happy to talk about having some left-handed pitching this year, which was at a it was something that was needed a year ago. You've got and Briggs in particular, I thought was pretty eloquent talking about the pitching staff being in the position he's in, and as the starting catcher, he started 50 of the 52 games they played last year.
At catcher?
Yeah, he did.
Oh.
And so he talked about there were a lot of young guys that got a lot of innings last year, and he just talked about that that experience, while sometimes taking some lumps a year ago, that and a good bit of work in the off season was going to be very helpful. And in his opinion, he thought there were some really bright things ahead. They've, again, added a lot of pieces. They still have 40 in the low 40s on the roster. But everybody in college baseball now carries more into the Christmas break than you will come out of it with. They're using fall ball now as a way to go through some cuts and all of that. So, they're picked mid pack right now, I think, in Conference USA, but I think they feel like they're going to be a little better than that. Interesting when the change came, you still have Dallas Baptist in there as a baseball only, which when you lost Southern Miss, you lost one top 20, picked up Dallas Baptist, which was another top 20. New Mexico State back in baseball. We played them back in the Sun Belt days, and the ball flies in Las Cruces in the light air out there. Liberty has been solid in baseball. So you lose what you lose with Charlotte, FIU, those you gain back with Liberty and New Mexico State. So it's going to be an interesting season. Middle has a very front-loaded home schedule as far as non-conference, probably not quite as challenging as it has been. And so they open up with Bowling Green State a week from Friday. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things I think has always been a key to scheduling. If you're a college baseball team in the South, schedule those teams from up north that want to come south early and maybe not have had a whole lot of time outside, even though, the snowstorm that hit has limited some of the outside time that teams in Tennessee have had.
Yeah, and Chip, you kind of surmised it a moment ago that maybe middle of the pack, but thinking a little better than that. How much better, I guess, as I'm putting my alumni hat on, how much better could they potentially get? And are we talking about maybe even a fringe run at this thing this year?
Well, I think, once they made, they made a statement last year that once you get in the tournament and you can make some things happen, I think they feel like that, the pitching, they're going to go as far as their pitching is going to take them. And that's just about everybody in college baseball. You've got Louisiana Tech is going to be good, and they're hosting the tournament, which Dallas Baptist is going to be good. Liberty is going to be good. And you think about next year, you're going to gain Kennesaw, who has been an NCAA tournament team in the past, and then Delaware the year after that. So I think that they have a chance with the way the schedule falls early with home games. If they can get some momentum and confidence in that portion of the schedule, then I think, that's a good, a good recipe to kind of get things rolling a little bit and do some things. FIU will be the opening conference series in Miami, and in the way that the conference season falls, I think most of Middle's home schedule in the conference will kind of be bunched up in the middle of the year. I know they open, and I think I'm right that they close on the road in the conference. But they've got Vanderbilt on the schedule again. Of course, all the locals that they typically play in Belmont. You got a home game or a road game rather at Vanderbilt. You got one at Alabama this year. They've got a non-conference weekend series with UT Martin fairly early. Take a road trip up to Cape Girardeau for a single game. So they I think they like their schedule, and I think they feel like they've made some progress with both in the management of the roster and getting it kind of where they want to, and also gaining some age and experience.
Chip, that road trip to the Cape, well, you don't do baseball, so never mind. Are you going to suggest to anybody that they swing down to Sykeston and get through Lambert's either before or after?
Go to Lambert's. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have the post-game meal on the bus from Lambert's, would it?
No.
Of course, somebody could stand in the front and throw the rolls toward the back, but
well,
not a bad. Well, I'll tell you what we did one time, Mo. Did you ever know Bob Ballard, who used to run the airport in Mount Pleasant? MT alum. We were all kind of in school at the same time. Bob used to fly our radio crew around to some games, and he was a pilot. And we had a game at SEMO in football, and when we left, it was an afternoon game, and so he flew into Cape Girardeau, and so we got back out, got on the plane, and we literally about 5 minutes, and we landed in Sykeston, and there's a phone there at the end of the airstrip. It was a pay phone, and it had a strip of tape to call. Had Lambert's phone number. If you call that number, they would come pick you up, and you would go to the front of the line. So we took advantage of that and got our Lambert's meal after a game at SEMO.
So they came and picked you up, took you to Lambert's, moved you to the front of the line, fed you, and then took you back to the plane?
That's correct.
That's
not
top
bad,
notch.
Not bad.
Top
treatment.
notch service.
That is top notch.
So the trick might be, even if you're not flying, go to the Sykeston Airport.
There you go.
Park and call on that on the phone from there,
and they'll come get you. That's as good as it gets right there, man. How long you been holding on to that one? That's classic.
Well, it just never came up, Wow. So
man, so we've talked about bats and balls. Let's continue talking about bats and balls for just a second, because the softball team opens its season Friday at 11:30 a.m. Central Time, which will be 9:30 a.m. on the West Coast when they take on UC Davis in the first of 4 games this weekend at the NorCal kickoff.
That's right. The Cal Davis Aggies. They'll also play St. Mary's, Cal Poly, and Sacramento State, and they'll also in that whole deal play San Jose State. So there's 5 games starting this weekend. So they'll play 2 Friday, 2 Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. And Davis and Sacramento are pretty close there in Central California. But, this is a middle team that has come off of a region final, and, obviously playing with a good bit of confidence. You did lose, you lost one big player from a year ago, but you bring back the bulk of your ball club, and you've added some pieces and parts that should be helpful. So I think this is a pretty good shakedown cruise to kind of figure out what you got. And is also, you're going to be testing your pitching depth a little bit when you're playing 5 games in 3 days.
You say went to a region final. You were within outs of a super regional. Last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And they took Alabama right down to the wire in Tuscaloosa. And so I think, Jeff Breeden was very confident about his ball club a year ago, and they return a good bit this year. And I'm just trying to think, looking at stats from last year. You look at pitching, Gretchen Mead, who is now on the staff, but you've got a bunch of folks back, including some local players like Shelby Sargent, Claire Zakowski, and Ansley Blevins, who is a Blue Raider legacy. And so this is a group that I think they're excited about what they're going to do. They're going to play a fun style of softball. They're going to try to put pressure. It'll be interesting to see how much power this team has, as opposed to the other, or how much small ball they'll feel like they have to play. But they will start out their first 3 weeks, I think. Looking at the schedule, the first 3 weeks will be on the road at tournaments. That's the way softball happens.
Mhm.
The next 2 weekends will be in Fort Myers and Madeira Beach, Florida. So, and they will not play back in Tennessee until February 28th, and then we'll play at home against in the MTSU Invitational on March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So they'll get about 15 games in before they come back to the state.
On the hardwood, the men are making the swing to Liberty and FIU, which I presume means the women are hosting Liberty and FIU. Is that right?
That's correct. The men will play. I've got an early wake-up call in the morning, Mo. We've tomorrow our travel party is split up a little bit, and so the early group, the bus is scheduled to roll out of the Greenland Drive parking lot at 6:15 to get to the airport and fly through Charlotte and then on to Lynchburg Regional, and then the other group will be coming later, and we'll get there in the afternoon, and so then they'll have they're going to practice in Murfreesboro before the biggest part of the group is going to they're going to practice in Murfreesboro before they leave, but we'll get some time in to get some shots up on Wednesday night. Then they'll have a full game day practice on Saturday at the new Liberty Arena, which has only been open now. This is either the second or third year of what is supposedly a very sparkling, fantastic arena there on the Liberty campus. And then we will play Thursday night and immediately jump on a charter flight to Miami to get down there on Thursday evening, so we're not having to spend all day Friday traveling due to an afternoon game on Saturday. So it's trying to compress it in and try to make the travel as least obtrusive as possible, because it is not easy. If you end up flying commercial, it's not an easy trip from Lynchburg to Miami. You're going to have to go through Charlotte no matter what. But we are fortunate that we're going to be able to charter and go directly right after the game down to Miami and get in the hotel there. And the women, like you mentioned, are going to be playing Liberty and FIU at home. And this will be the first matchup with Liberty, the second matchup with FIU, who they beat by 30 on the road, when FIU at the time was undefeated in league play.
Undefeated and projected as the AQ out of Conference USA.
Yes.
I don't think that's any longer the case.
And neither one of those are facts anymore.
Yeah. All right. I just want to know, Chip, who do you have to know to get in that late flight group tomorrow rather than that 6:15 at Greenland?
I think you need to be a coach or a scholarship athlete, because
okay.
I think they keep the balance of the team. I think there's 7 of us in our group tomorrow, and I think that is basically support staff. I know
That's not
myself,
the Magnificent Seven, then, huh?
Yeah, the Magnificent Seven. It'll be, I know myself, Thomas Donnelly. Pretty sure the managers will be there, and possibly Jake Jubenville and one other. So we'll see. Well, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see who does show up at 6 a.m. Could be Reggie Upshaw, and always good to have Reggie on your flight. If it is him, maybe Reggie Scurry. We'll have to see.
Okay. All right. Everybody excited about signing day tomorrow?
I haven't really heard a ton about it, because, it has been the December signing date has, taken such a big precedence over the first Wednesday in February, back as little as 10 years ago, I guess, that, we had December was not a big deal. And even when it started, it was limited, and still it was the February date, but it has become more and more important to get the bulk of your work done in recruiting in December. Back after when he had his press conference following the December signing date, I asked Coach Mason, matter of fact, I was in Cedar City, Utah, if I remember, when I was on the Zoom call with him, but asked him about what his expectations were as far as signing, as far as numbers for February. And he wouldn't give me a hard number, but he said 10-ish at the time. And I think they may have scaled that back just a little bit. So somewhere maybe between 5 and 10. I haven't heard any definitive word out of that yet, but still they, I think much like a lot of programs do, everybody tries to keep a couple of spots open going into the summer, because it seems like there's always somebody that ends up popping up that you might want to have. And so that, if you want to try to get to that 85, you may want to be at 82 or 83 following this February period. But yeah, that and I think it'll be interesting to see what the makeup of this portion of the class is, as opposed to what we saw back, because it was a pretty good mixture, I thought, back in December of high school kids, as well as getting some guys out of the portal and a couple of well-placed JUCOs in there. So it'll be, I look forward to seeing that. One thing I've seen too, speaking of football, our friends in the Blue Raider football alumni group, they're I think it's February 24th. They're going to be having a football alumni meet and greet with Coach Mason and his staff, which will be pretty cool. And I know he's been very responsive as far as having an open door to the former players, and so I know he wants to do a lot of things, and this will be one of the first opportunities where, as far as a big group of former players, he and his staff will have an opportunity to talk to them, and that'll be exciting for them to be able to do that, and for the former players as well.
Sure.
Hey Chip, another big Super Bowl coming up for our MTSU guys, and it seems like Richie James is getting some buzz on the internet as a popular guy that maybe gets that Super Bowl touchdown. And I guess I'm curious, what are the plans in Murfreesboro with so many guys, former Blue Raiders, going to be littered on the field on Sunday?
Well, I don't know that there are any real special plans. I just think that it heightens the awareness a little bit, and the university and the athletic department have put out a good bit about there being, 3 players from middle on the Kansas City roster and 1 on San Francisco's roster, and everybody has their own Super Bowl plans and all of that, but there's a graphic that is out there and about the schools that have the most players in the big game, and Oklahoma was number 1 with 6, and I was looking here trying to find it myself.
I think middle is tied with about.
Yeah, Georgia, Florida, and Clemson have 5.
Mm-hmm.
Then Michigan, Middle, TCU, and Southern California have 4. And then there's a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that have 3, and then a passel of them that have 2. So very proud of those guys,
including that school to the east.
Yes, that's correct. And but really excited about them. You got you talked about Richie James. You got Charvarius Ward, Darius Harris, and Isaiah Gathings all getting a chance to play and be on the roster, and excited for those guys. And it just goes to show that you can reach all your dreams from Middle Tennessee. So
there you have it.
There you have it.
The Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters, joining us here.
I do have one other thing. Tomorrow on my morning show, the Burv talks to the Vought.
Oh, nice.
I got an hour. We put it in the can on Sunday night since I'm traveling tomorrow morning. Mike Keith was kind enough to take some time and we most of it was the time was talking about his the process of getting the job, and I'd never really heard the story of how he ended up getting the job.
It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty good story, and we talked about
and the timing of it.
Yeah, we talked about our common connection with John Ward, a little bit of that, and I have a story that I tell to him about what I thought was one of the most unbelievable things anybody ever did for me, and that was something John Ward did. And he talked, and Mike really filled in a lot of gaps on some things that I didn't know. And then we spent a full segment talking about the new coaching staff and how the Titans roster might look this year. So it was a really, it was a really quick but a fun hour with just and I've told Mike before that all of us guys who across the state who have been in broadcasting and sportscasting, you want to hate Mike because he got that job when he was so young, but he's such a good guy, and then you end up cheering for him.
You cannot hate Mike Keith.
You cannot. He is such a good guy, and now 12-time Tennessee Sportscaster of the Year. So really, really proud of him and what he has put together. This is his going into his 27th year with the Titans, which is pretty amazing.
When he was 10, doesn't he?
Yeah. He still has. He looks as young as anybody. Mine and your hair, Mo, will give us away for our age.
Man, mine been giving me away for a long time. It's nothing new, but
no, mine started in high school, right here in the temples. I started turning gray, but it didn't turn loose. It turned gray, but it didn't turn loose.
There you go. Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, as he does every Tuesday, except when he doesn't. Chip, we appreciate it. Safe travels, and sounds like you'll be back in time for the Super Bowl, so enjoy that, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, Mo, and Wade, good to see you, my man.
Thank you, Chip.
When we come back here on Main Street Sports today, Wade, this is going to be a fun segment because there is a story that came across yesterday regarding why a certain Titans former head coach may not have been employable. Stay tuned here on Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back to Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Later in this hour, the last segment, Top 5 Tuesday, we will be giving you our thoughts on the top 5 celebrity sports fans. Can't imagine why we talk about something like that. But anyway, yeah, things that make you go. But right now, though, there's an article that is based on a report from Diana Rossini of The Athletic, where she's discussing Washington's hiring of Dan Quinn, former Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator, as their new head coach, and thus apparently closing the door on this year's NFL head coaching vacancies cycle. And she says, in discussing why Mike Vrabel did not get a job during this cycle after his dismissal by the Titans, one NFL general manager reportedly believed Vrabel's physical build may have deterred front offices. Mike Vrabel, former NFL linebacker / defensive end, 6'4", 260. He's a very large human being and can be very intimidating to people in an organization that are going to be part of these decisions, and that is a factor. Reading from the Sporting News. While Rossini initially laughed at the idea that Vrabel's size played into the hiring process, the general manager reiterated his belief. I said, stop, that's not something that's real. Who cares what somebody physically looks like? And he said, I'm just telling you, I've been in rooms and somebody's physical presence can make a difference. She reports, you decide.
Hang on, let me just get hunched up here and try to get my presence correct.
Here's the thing. When you think about it, I mean, look at Mike McDaniel down at Miami, for instance. Who does he intimidate? I mean, that's just one that jumps out at me, but I mean, Matt LaFleur. When you start thinking about some of the guys who have recently been hired as head coaches in the National Football League, they're not a whole lot of guys that look like one-time defensive linemen. But
no,
that's a tough concept to deal with. I mean,
Y-
if you're being physically intimidated by a guy and that's the reason you're not hiring him, man.
Yeah, and two things. Number one, would you not want your coach to kind of be potentially physically intimidating? If nothing else, my coach can beat up your coach type situation. And then number two, you obviously have guys like D'Amico Ryans, who's mentioned in this article, and obviously Dan Campbell, who's a hefty man himself.
Mhm.
And if you want to even throw in Andy Reid, who's in the Super Bowl, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting that this story legit came to light. And I love the fact that we had the double down comment, like, no, this is kind of a for real thing, because I'm like, I don't buy this.
I have a tough time believing that. Well, I guess here's the thing. I think I like to give people the benefit of the doubt whenever it's possible to do so. And I would hate to think that people making those decisions are that insecure.
Yeah, and I don't have Dan Quinn's bio just pulled up right in front of me, but is he not
6'5", 265. 6'5", 265 is Dan Quinn. 6'1", 247 is D'Amico Ryan. So, I mean, I guess at least he's short. I don't know, relatively speaking. But I'd be interested to see all of the heights and weights of all 32 of your head coaches.
Yeah,
Not
might as
interested
well just
enough
line
to.
them up and we'll just have
I'm not
a
interested
small
enough to
scale
put it.
combine at this point.
Yeah, I'm not interested enough to look it up for all 32 of them, but I'm kind of curious. Maybe we
Yeah,
revisit
and
this tomorrow.
we could be on to something for Wild and Wacky Wednesday, but obviously this does kind of slam the door shut on Vrabel for this coaching cycle, which everybody I think thought he probably would end up in a spot this situation, but I still am of the opinion or camp that Braves is going to end up just fine. I think everybody obviously thought that New England would be where he would land up before we knew the contract situation that Mayo had in place. But I think Braves is going to end up fine. So I just do find it a little interesting that kind of a quote unquote negative story is leaking out after the fact, because I'm personally of the opinion that this guy is going to end up. He's probably going to be your head coaching choice number one, whichever jobs come open next year, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of the Titans coaching staff, word, as so often happens with this show, word started to come out shortly after we went off the air yesterday. Former Titans defensive coordinator Shane Bowen is current New York Giants defensive coordinator Shane Bowen. So
Wow.
he was hired to replace not the guest show host, but the former defensive coordinator of the New York Giants, Wink Martindale. So
Bowen comes in, and Titans staff, we've had a great time, the last couple of weeks talking with Terry about all the shakeups that have gone on with Tennessee, but kind of a guy that I didn't necessarily just immediately think would land right back in a defensive coordinator position, but here we are, right?
Same here. There's an article on The Athletic announcing the move. The Titans allowed 335.5 yards per game last season, tied for 17th in the league with the Green Bay Packers. Their 21.6 points per game allowed, ranked 16th in the league. So those aren't necessarily numbers that scream, hire this guy.
No, kind of a head scratcher in that frame for sure for me. I guess, sometimes maybe that classic case of not what you know or what you've done, but maybe who do you know? Because, that's on its surface level, doesn't seem like you're just slam dunk hire at a defensive coordinator position at this point in his career.
Now, it is all relative. New York was 26th in points allowed and 27th in total defense. So this is better.
Yeah, the bar was potentially set low, and so he can come in and maybe, if nothing else, improve just by showing up.
Theoretically. Now, I mean, obviously, a lot of that has to do with, not just X's and O's, but also Jimmy's and Joe's. So we'll see how it goes with Shane and Brian Dayball up in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Wait, this one may be a little bit more in your wheelhouse than some of the other stuff we have discussed, because I know you are an NBA guy. Certainly more so than I am. The Eastern Conference All-Stars coach will be Doc Rivers, who a week ago was unemployed in terms of coaching, has coached 3 games with the Milwaukee Bucks since the sudden dismissal of Adrian Griffin. And of those 3 games, he's won 1. But it was enough to give the Bucks the the second best record in the Eastern Conference. And apparently, because you can't coach in the NBA All-Star Game 2 years in a row, the Boston Celtics and Joe Mazzulla is ineligible to coach the East All-Stars this time, so it goes to the number 2 Bucks. Again, never mind that the Bucks got to that number 2 record primarily with Adrian Griffin at the helm. So,
yeah, certainly a unique situation to say the least, and it is at least somewhat kind, I suppose, of Doc that he's kind of given Adrian Griffin his flowers in a sense. So much even so, I'm reading this same Yahoo article here that he's willing to give him part of his ring and coaching share, which is certainly mighty kind. But very interesting. Yeah, the headline alone is just what makes this story. The fact that he was not even in the association in an active coaching role, just a couple of days ago, and now he finds himself not only coaching one of the top teams in all the NBA, but also now coaching the All-Star team. And so the headline alone is just mind-blowing to me.
Absolutely. The All-Star game is set for February 18th. I guess that's, 2 weeks from Sunday? Or is it a week from Sunday?
A week from Sunday, correct.
It's a week from Sunday in Indianapolis. Doc has coached in 3 previous All-Star games in 08, 11, and 21. I think he had been employed for the entire season in each of those previous occasions. So this is wild, man. I mean, we talked about it right after Adrian Griffin was dismissed. Again, 30-plus wins in his first 40-something games. But sounds like he and some combination of he and Giannis or he and Dame got crossways. And you're not going to fire the players, so got to be the coach.
No, and Giannis at least has been playing at just a freakish level, pardon the pun there, the last couple of games. And so it'll be interesting. What I also do find interesting is that I'm continuing on here is that kind of part of Doc's decision that the new assistants are not going to join. He's going to allow that opportunity to Adrian Griffin's staff. Former Grizzlies coach Dave Yeager, one of those assistant coaches, won't be going with Doc to Indianapolis. But just something had to have been off. And, there were reports coming out of even as early as training camp that things weren't just totally hunky-dory with maybe either management or with the Players Association. We just see this happen, it feels like, where this league in particular is one where if you get sideways or crossways with the players, if they're of a high enough caliber, it's usually the coach that's going to be tossed to the curb.
It's a story as old as time. Going back to the old Lakers and Magic Johnson and whoever it was that he got dismissed out there. I mean, it's far from the first time it's happened, but it's still pretty wild when it does, particularly, again, when it's a 30-win team before the halfway point of the season. So
that's the key thing, is that it wasn't as if they're toiling toward the bottom of the standings. I mean, they're right there in the mix. and have made a full-on coaching change. They're lucky, I think, or fortunate enough that they're able to land a coach of Doc's pedigree at least. But the interesting part is so much of the kind of the backlash that Griffin had kind of picked up, it seemed like, was his performance in the playoffs. And yes, he's got a ring, but isn't Doc Rivers kind of known for not doing so well in the playoffs with talented rosters?
In addition, Doc Rivers was available when you hired Adrian Griffin to start with. So, brighter minds than ours, Wade. Brighter minds than ours. Anyway, we're going to step away, come back for our final segment of the day, which, of course, is Top 5 Tuesday. We are going to discuss the top 5, in our opinion, celebrity sports fans. So, stay with us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We will be back after this.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA. With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Final segment of today's Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Wade Neely, Maurice Patton. Top 5 Tuesday here, presented as always by Mid-South 5 Fitness, getting you in better shape than you're in, whatever that shape is. So much talk over this NFL season about a certain sports fan of a certain tight end on a certain team that will be playing this weekend in Super Bowl 58, that we just thought we would take a look at some other celebrity sports fans. We won't include this one. That's kind of the gold standard, but we're gonna take a shot at the top 5 celebrity sports fans, and we'll do it draft style. And Wade, since there's only 2 of us, I'll let you go first.
All right. Well, if I'm going to get to go first, I'm going to jump out. This is one that I kind of grew up with. If you're a fan of the NBA in the 90s or 2000s, you got to go Spike Lee at the Knicks game. He's in the front row. He's heckling the players. I mean, he doesn't just show up to the games and just sit idly by. He's trying to actively get involved. So I'm going Spike, number 1.
I'm going to go with one with local ties. It's kind of old schoolish. I don't know how much she shows up these days. I don't think she was at Rupp Saturday night, but actress Ashley Judd has been a huge Kentucky fan for a long period of time. So love her in Double Jeopardy as well. If you've not seen it, you're cheating yourself. So anyway, Ashley Judd right off the bat.
Yep, she was a good one and was on my list. Good snag by you. Since
Then
we're going to get this one,
we're even because you took Spike. So
that's fair enough, I suppose. This guy is, if you flip on a University of Texas game, he's there. He's everywhere. He's the minister of culture. Give me Matt McConaughey, number 2 on my list here. This guy just bleeds burnt orange.
All right. My number 2, and again, this is a guy that we've not heard as much of late, maybe because his Trojans and his Steelers have kind of been running in place, but Snoop Dogg was a fixture on the USC sidelines back when they were really good sometime back, maybe with Pete Carroll, maybe a little later, but particularly through those years, you used to see him a lot.
Yeah, he was always there, I felt like.
Huge Southern Cal fan. So,
all right, you mentioned a person with local ties, and I thought this is who you were going to pick earlier. This is a little bit outside of the box, but I'm going Vince Gill, Belmont super fan, a celebrity, and a big fan over the years.
Had him on my list. That's a good pull. That's a good one. Yeah, he was a regular at Belmont. Again, don't know if he still is or not because I'm not circulating around there like I used to. As long as we're keeping it country, though. And this guy isn't necessarily, in fact, he doesn't necessarily have any allegiance to anybody, but Kenny Chesney shows up at a lot of things.
For the longest time, you think he's a Tennessee fan, but then he shows up at Florida games. Mm-hmm. He shows up everywhere. He's just seemingly a fan of everybody, right?
And it's like he's got jerseys of the top 20 and pops them all out at any time. But, he was instrumental in the making of the 30 for 30, the color orange. So,
whether he admits it or not, and whether they're ranked in the top 10 at any given time or not, I feel like Kenny Chesney is a perma Vols fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Your number 4?
I'm going to go a little modern here. This sometimes is a kiss of death if this guy shows up at your games and he's rooting for your teams. And I'm going Drake. Mm-hmm. He's the Toronto Raptors kind of version of Matt McConaughey in the sense that he is all things Toronto. But sometimes that's a detriment because if he shows up, sometimes the bad things happen for your team. But I'm going Drake, kind of like Kenny Chesney. He's been known to show up at Kentucky games. He kind of just pops up whatever the hot team is, but through and through, he's a Raptors guy.
He's always representing for the 6, Drake is. So next on my list, and I'm an old school guy, so I might as well lean into it. One of the first folks that you saw in this role probably was Jack Nicholson, particularly around the Lakers back during Showtime. he was always on the front row. And as you were saying about Spike and some of these others, you couldn't miss him, and he made his presence felt. So Jack Nicholson is my next guy.
That's a good one. And yeah, he's kind of right there synonymous with Spike. Just, I'd love, even still, he doesn't get as crazy as he used to, but I love when they just pan the crowd and there he is. He's at every game, it seems like. And that's what I give him props for too. He doesn't miss many games. And so, Mo, this last one, I was doing a little research and I was thinking about picking Billy Crystal. And I'm reading conflicting reports. I'm going to lean to you on this. Is Billy Crystal a Mets fan or a Yankees fan? I'm seeing two different reports here online.
Yes, I think he's a New York fan.
Okay, so he's not necessarily loyal to one or the other. He can kind of like we've said, whistle as the wind blows, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that being said, then I will defer back. I'm a Jets fan, and I just listened to a podcast that he's featured on. Larry David of Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm fame. He's a glutton for punishment, like myself. He's a big Jets fan, so I'm going to round out my list with a little humor in a sick and twisted way. The New York Jets will be represented with Larry David.
So riddle me this: how does one get to be a Jets fan from Southern Middle Tennessee?
Real quickly, the quick version of the long story is before the Titans had arrived in Nashville, my parents, we live out in the country. We only had access to a satellite dish, and the only channels that we could pick up really of note were the ABC or CBS New York feeds. And so the Jets were on the TV a lot. This was also coincidentally when the Jets were halfway decent in the mid-90s, ultimately getting to the 98 AFC championship game that the Broncos ended up winning. So kind of just inadvertently fell into Jets fandom and thought they were pretty good. Didn't do my homework, though. Didn't realize how bad they were, and I've been tortured ever since.
Clearly you did not do your homework. Clearly you have been tortured. Yeah. I'm intrigued by getting the feed out of New York on your satellite.
I'm talking, this was a dish the size of the Lee Company studio, let alone the mobile studio.
That's funny. You know what? My number 5, Jimmy Carter loves the Braves. Now, he doesn't go all the time for obvious reasons, but he gets to the important games. And when you've got the president of the United States showing up for you, or the former president, that's a pretty big deal. Jimmy Carter and the Braves, that's my number 5. I also had Bill Murray on my list and then checked off from him late. But Bill Murray, speaking of torture, Cubs fan. Enough said, right?
Bless him.
Exactly. All right. Well, that's going to do it for Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by Mid-South 5 Fitness, getting you in better shape than you are in. They'll take care of you. Thaler Steele and his folks. You can find him at Steel Athletes, STEEL Athletes. Hit him up on Instagram in particular, and he'll get you taken care of. Wade, you got a ball game to get to over at Murfreesboro Central. I got a ball game to get to down in Mount Pleasant. So let us both say a fond adieu, and we will see y'all here at 2 o'clock tomorrow on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-South Joint. Talk to you later.